What if I told you you don't always have to write every column while inserting data in a SQL? Sometimes SQL can do it automatically for you, and that also for free. Also, sometimes you can just insert hundreds of rows with just one SQL statement. So let's get started. Before we move on to DML, we first need to see how can we read the data. When we want to read something from the database from any table, what do we write here in SQL? We write select star from the table name. And what is our table name? Our table name is users table. And what is the schema of our users table? It is app. So select star from app.users. Let's see what data is in this table. So we got all the column names, but we do not have any data here. But if we do not have any data here, we will not be able to get what is the exact data type or what kind of data is being stored in all these columns here. So in order to see these details, we need to have some information about this table. And we already know that these tables are being created using DDL statements. So to get these informations, we have a table called as information schema. And what is this table exactly? So this information schema table contains the metadata of all the objects being stored inside a database. Now you may ask, what is a metadata? So metadata is the data of the data. For example, if we have this users table here, it will contain column names, and the column name can be nullable or it cannot be nullable, or there can be some default value set for this is active column. So let's see how can we see these metadata using the information schema table. Select star from which table? Information schema table. Information underscore schema. And what information do we need to see from this table? We need to see the column details. So that's why I will write here dot columns, where what is the schema of our table? Schema is app, right? So here I will write where table schema is equal to what? Is equal to string app, right? And what is the table name here? Table name is users table. So I will write here table name is equal to users. And instead of star, I want certain details. So what detail do I need here? I want to have column name, and then I want to have data type, and then I want to know if these columns are nullable or not. So is nullable, and I also want to know is there any default value set in these columns or not. So I will write column default. Okay, before this, let me put this U in capital letter. Okay, or maybe in app also I will put A in capital letter. Now let's run this. I got column name, data type is nullable and column default, but I did not get any data here. And why is that? Because this table schema and this table name should be in small letter. So here it should be small a, and here it should be small u. These are case sensitive. So table name and table schema are case sensitive. Now if we run this, yes, we got the data. So for this users table, we have these columns, and these are the data types that we have for this particular columns, and whether these columns are nullable or not. For example, if you see user ID column, it is nullable is equal to no. So this means we cannot have null value inside this user ID table. So this is how we can see the DML of this particular users table. Now let's move forward. Now we know how to read the data from any table, also how to check the detail of that table. Let's move forward. We have a table, and table name is users table, but there is no record in this table right now. So obviously we will have to insert some records into this table, and that is the purpose of DML statements. So how can we insert data here? Let's see the basic insert first. So syntax for basic insert is insert into the table. And what is the table name? Users. And this table is inside an app schema. So that is why I will also give here the schema name as well. So it is insert into app.users table. And after that, I will write all the column names here. So what are the column names here? Okay, instead of plans, I will write here users. So column name is user ID, and then user name, and then email, then phone number, and then is active, and then created at, and the last is deleted at. And then I will write the keyword values, and this will contain all the values that I want to insert here. So for user ID, since it is integer, I will give here 1, then comma, then I have to write user name. I will write here alpha, and then for email I will write alpha@codebrat.com, and then for phone number I will give the phone number. Since phone number is in character, I will give again in quotes, and then we have is active here, and is active is boolean. I will write here true. So for created at, I will write maybe current timestamp, and then for deleted at, I will keep it as null. Okay, now let's run this. Now if you see here, it is saying one row affected. That means one row has been inserted. Let's see the data now. Select star from app.users table. Yes, now we have the data. So this current timestamp, this function here, and what is this function doing? It is fetching the current timestamp of that particular time. This data is being inserted. Since we have put null here we do not have anything. It is null. And this null is not a string. And it is also not 0. It is nothing. Null means simply nothing. There is no value. Neither 0, just nothing. But here I have used all the column names here. But I do not want to use all the column names. I want to have only some certain column names itself. And for the rest thing, I do not want to insert anything. But here if you see, I have used all the column names here. But I do not want to use all the column names. I want only certain column names that has to be inserted. And that is called partial insert. So for partial insert, what shall we write here? We will again write insert keyword, then into keyword, insert into, then the table name. Table name is app.users. App is the schema name and users is the table name. And then I want only certain columns to be inserted. So I want user ID column to be inserted, then user name to be inserted, and then maybe phone number. And after this, bracket close, and then keyword values. And inside values, I want to give the values that I want to insert. So I have already given 1. So I will write here 2 for the user ID, and for the user name column I will give beta as the name, and then phone number. And if you see here, one row affected, this means another row has been inserted, right? And we got 2 rows now. This is the second row that we have inserted. And if you see here, we gave user ID as 2, so it is 2 here, and the name, user name as beta, so it is beta here. But we did not give any value for email, so it is null. And we gave value for phone number, so phone number has also been inserted here. But we did not give the value of is active. Also, we did not give the value for created at. So how it is inserted? That's a good question, right? So let's see the information schema again. So here if you see, user ID column is not nullable. Same for username. We cannot have null values inside username column as well as user ID column. And for is active column and for created at column, we have some default value set already. So for isActive column, default value is true. And for created timestamp, we have current timestamp as the default value. Even if we are not giving any value specifically for isActive and created at, default value will always be inserted. So that is why when we are running this SQL, this isActive column as true and this created at column is with the timestamp at which this row was inserted. But there is one more question. Let's run this information schema again. Here if you see, user ID and username is not nullable. That means we cannot have null values in user ID and username column. So what will happen if I do not give this column names in the insert statement? So I will remove this user ID column from here, also remove user name from here. Instead I will give email and isActive and phone number. That's it. So for email I will give here gamma@postgres.com, and then for isActive I do not want default value. Specifically I will write here false. So this, I want this user to be not active, so I am giving here false. Now let's run this. What will happen? Let's see. We got an error, and that is what we are expecting, right? Because in the DDL, user ID column and user name column should never be null, and that's the whole purpose of specifying those two values or those two columns as not null in the DDL. Now suppose we wrote this insert statement here and I want to insert another row as well. We have inserted two rows now, right? Row 1 and row 2. Suppose now I have 10 rows to be inserted. So will I write every time this complete statement? Yes, we can do that, but this is not how we should do that. So let's see how we can insert multiple rows at once. So I will write here insert into column names. I will copy all these column names from here. And then I will write values keyword, and then inside values I will write the value. So for the third row I will write 3 as the user ID column, and for username I will, since this row was not inserted, I will write here gamma as the username, and then for email I will write gamma@postgres.com, and then phone number would be, I will leave phone number as null, and then for isActive I will write true, and then for created at current timestamp and deleted at null. Now I want to insert another row. So here I will give one comma, and then again I will write the keyword values, and then I will give another set of value here. We have some mistake here. Okay, I got the error here. I forgot to mention the table name here. So it should be app.users table. So this is a silly mistake that you also need to avoid. And also in one insert statement, there can be only one keyword values. We cannot have multiple values here. I mean, we will have multiple values, but keyword should only be one here. Two rows has been inserted. Let's see the data now. So let's start from users. Now we have complete 4 rows here with all these values that we have inserted. But there is one catch here. Here we have mentioned all the column names, right? So we have to mention all these values in exact same order as this. So here the first column is user ID. So in values also, first value should be user ID. Here if we have username column here, then the second value should also be username. You cannot write email here in second and then you this Brat here in place of email. If you do that, then what will happen? Let's see another example here. I will copy this Pico. I will insert only one row for now, and then Pico. And if I run this, it will insert one row. But what will happen now? This email ID has been stored inside this username column, and this name has been inserted into this email ID column. So that is wrong. So you have to keep it in mind that you cannot mismatch between columns here. And there can be one more example here, and here I will remove one value. Here if you see, there are how many columns here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, but I gave only 6 values here. We got error. And what is this error exactly? Insert has more target columns than expression. So this is saying these values are less than the column specified. So we have to give exactly the same number of values as the columns that we have mentioned here. So this partial insert is also done. Now I want to insert values inside a table, but with help of another table. For example, we have this watch history table inside analytics schema, and I want to insert data into this watch history table from another table or from this users table. Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. Let's see how we can do that. Insert statement is the same. Insert into the table name. And in which table I want to insert the data? I want to insert data into the watch history table. And watch history table is in analytics schema. So I will write analytics dot the table name, that is watch history, and then I will mention the column names here. And what is the column name? These are the, let's see what are all the column names here. Select star from this table. We have watch ID, user ID, movie ID, watched at, and end date. Now I want that this user ID should come from the users table instead of me mentioning this user ID column specifically here. I want this to come from users table. So let's see how we can do that. So insert into this table and then the column name. Then I will write select what? For watch history ID, for watch ID, I will write here 101 as the ID, then user ID, then watched at should be current timestamp, and then end date should be again current timestamp from app.users table, right? We are selecting user ID from this table, right? And if you see this table, let's run this table again. Let's see the data. Select star from app.users. But if you see user ID, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Total 5 user ID column. And we are inserting only one row here, that is 101. By running this SQL, I am getting multiple user IDs. So those cannot be inserted in just one row, right? So here I need to mention that which row I want to insert or which user ID that I want to insert. So from app.users, where phone number is equal to this. Okay, here it is saying extra parenthesis. Okay, yes. So here we do not have to use parenthesis. This is a wrong syntax. Let's run this again. Yes, one row has been inserted. And here if you see, this particular one is having one arrow. That means this value is coming from some another table. This arrow denotes that this value is coming from another table. And that is how we can insert data into a table with the help of another table. I want to keep this video short. We have another set of DML commands, that is update, delete, truncate and merge, that we will learn in next videos. Thank you for watching.